And those who dare to hope find nothing to hope for.
The broken promises of the Fable franchise have been long documented, but we've all moved past that at this point to accept it for what it is. An ambitiously open-ended game that seamlessly blends elements of MMOs, RPGs, and action-adventure games into one satisfying whole. Fable 3 keeps its ambitions in check in favor of massaging what's already established. Is it enough?
I'm not sure.
The age of industry has come to Albion, though some call it the age of oppression.
Set decades after the second Fable, you begin by choosing to play as either the prince or princess of Albion. Either way, you're the offspring of the hero from the second game, but your older brother Logan has taken the throne, and he's ruling it with an iron fist.
Enough! How dare you turn against me? Perhaps you believe you should be the one making these decisions.
With the kingdom in shambles and its citizens repressed, you have to travel the land to gain support from key leaders to bolster an attempt to remove Big Brother from power. Nothing is black and white, and you have to make promises to each of the rulers in order to have them join the cause.
We don't take much stock in words round these parts.
This is important because in the last part of the game, you become king, and these folks will come to you asking you to keep your word. You're also tasked with raising a large sum of money. It's then you realize that to satisfy all the promises you've made, you're going to have to sacrifice the quality of life in Albion. It makes for some really tough decisions with no compromises. In Albion, being good will always cost you money, and being bad is the easy way to riches. It's a little too cut and dried, and teaches some dangerous lessons.
You promised you would end child labor.
While there's a lot of flexibility in how you reach the end, the final outcome doesn't change much. Even so, few games present stories with as many characters to affect through moral quandary, and even fewer provide real consequences for the choices you make.
We just can't. Choose me. You can't let them all die. Choose me.
You have a full royal suit. I must say I am in awe.
Like the prior games in the series, Fable 3 is basically an MMO wrapped in an action-adventure. There's an overarching goal to achieve, but you can spend as much time getting there as you want. Few games manage to tangle the repercussions of your actions into their very fabric, like Fable 3. Clearly split into two discrete parts, the first two-thirds of the game are combat-heavy and revolve around overthrowing your tyrant of a brother. In the last third, the game shifts dramatically, and you're forced to learn the ins and outs of acquiring gold and making difficult decisions about the future of the region.
Today, you will deal with a pressing environmental issue.
The game world is one huge, flowing piece of land filled with hundreds of citizens, and almost all of them have tasks for you to tackle. Once you get past the initial tutorials, you're basically free to roam wherever you want and spend your time how you please. Sure, you can cut straight to the chase and follow the trail of pixie dust to your next objective, but then you'd be missing a lot of what makes it unique. You can attempt to become a land baron by buying property and collecting rent, tackle the scores of side quests to build your abilities, or be a completionist in hopes of finding every last hidden item. It's entirely up to you, but if you want to get more than 10 hours of play from it, straying from the beaten path is a necessity.
Now here is where you can fine-tune the more esoteric aspects of your adventuring experience.
With so many options, it would be easy for a game like this to become cumbersome. That's where the Sanctuary comes in. Basically a fully modeled start menu, this interactive control panel does a great job of organizing everything for you. There's an armory and a wardrobe, but most importantly it includes a map table that gives you a bird's eye view of Albion, all the quests available, and a list of collectibles. You can even zoom in and warp to any location provided it's already been visited on foot. It could have been accomplished with the menu system, but it goes a long way towards keeping continuity, and the access and functionality are painless. Just like the first two games, a moral compass is always at play. Every little thing you do affects how people react to you. Word travels fast, and there's nothing like receiving gifts from the citizens for making their lives more enjoyable, or hearing their positive feedback as you brush by them on the street.
We could be more than just friends, you know.
It only adds gravity to all the decisions you have to make.
You're the king everyone hoped for, including me.
You can also sway people through socializing, though it's relegated to a series of canned actions like physical interaction or just acting silly. Make a friend and you'll be rewarded with new quests, gifts, or cheaper prices. You can also take the relationship to the next level and fall in love, get married, and have children. Gold is much more important in Fable 3 since you'll have to amass a huge treasury by game's end. Real estate is undoubtedly the easiest way to build your riches, and every wagon, house, and business is for sale. proceeds are deposited into your account every 5 minutes, but the large sum required helps balance the overall economy. The cooperative play in Fable 2 felt tacked on and provided little incentive, but that's all changed in the sequel. Now everything you accumulate while playing with others is taken back into your single-player campaign. You can also use your fully customized avatar complete with any abilities or weapons you've acquired. Best of all, you can interact with other human players just like any NPC to form business partnerships or even tie the knot. It's a huge leap forward. Many games like to toss around the open-ended moniker, but Fable 3 truly nails it through various side quests and plenty of incentive. While the main path through the single-player quest is a little too short for our liking, if you truly dive into what the game has to offer, you can burn dozens of hours just tinkering around.
None of it helps. I don't want to see the crude, awkward fumblings of everyday folk.
Elite soldiers, my ass. Have that!
The gameplay in Fable 3 is incredibly streamlined, even when compared to Fable 2. There's one face button each for melee, magic, and ranged weapons, and all three use a fairly effective auto lock-on.
Fight! Excellent!
The depth comes from how you press each of the buttons. Tap them once and you'll launch a weak attack. Hold them and release them, and you'll unleash more powerful flourishes depending on how long they're held down. It works well and is easy to come to grips with. The only issue is that blocking uses the same button as the melee attack. It can be a little finicky, and considering the triggers go unused, it could have been mapped elsewhere. No matter whether you're using a sword, magic, or a pistol, each will change their appearance with use depending on how you play. You can also increase their power in an area called the Road to Rule, where you spend guild seals that are rewarded for just about everything you do in the game.
You have survived a terrible ordeal, but you will be the stronger for it.
New abilities and upgraded job skills are also available, and you'll have to complete a lot of side quests to even hope of maxing everything out before the conclusion.
Use your spell against them.
In Fable 2, you could imbue your spells with special properties to create some interesting results. This time, you wear 2 gauntlets at a time with a spell assigned to each one. Mixing various gauntlets together can completely alter the power and style of the spells you cast, so experimentation is highly recommended. Some special spells and potions are mapped to the D-pad for easy access.
Ah, yes, one's heart soars before such regal bearing.
The dog was an addition to Fable 2, and the Old Mutt returns for Part 3 with few upgrades. He still helps spot treasure and alerts you to impending danger, but your interaction is kept pretty simple, and the canine still isn't much help in combat. At the same time, you don't need much help because Fable 3 is far too easy. We only died a couple times throughout the entire game, and that was simply because we stopped paying attention to our health after the first 5 or 6 hours. We finished the game with scores of unused health potions, and could have easily finished it without a scratch to our avatar. With no difficulty setting, there's really no escaping the lack of tension in the combat. Mission objectives come in a wide variety, and they don't just hold the big ones for the primary quest arc. Sure, there are plenty of fetch quests, but there are also some fairly unique ones. It mixes things up pretty well. The same can't be said for the jobs, where you endure simple quick-time events for minimal cash.
Oops, watch it!
The gameplay in Fable 3 hasn't changed much from the prior installment. It's an easy game that has a low barrier of entry. The lack of memorable boss encounters is a disappointment, but otherwise, it smooths some rough edges without sacrificing depth.
Oh, you don't see that every day.
If you played Fable 2, then you'll know just what to expect from the visuals and sound in Fable 3. That means a consistent art style, some breathtaking scenery, and some of the best voice acting in the medium. You'll also get the same warts in the form of crude character models and poor lip syncing. The game does hold up under the strain of dozens of characters on screen at once, but some moments that were built up to be epic lose some of their steam when what the game calls an army amounts to around 30 people. The music is absolutely haunting and helps set a serious tone, though we would have enjoyed a few more lighthearted tunes to help provide some contrast. It's easy to recommend Fable 3 to anyone who enjoyed the second game. It's very similar, but the story is stronger, the decisions you make have more gravity, the co-op is vastly improved, and the design forces you to sample everything the game has to offer. It's a brief experience for those who choose to follow the breadcrumb trail, but there's still no other game like it, and it's worth the effort to find out what kind of ruler you will be.
Let the battle for Albion begin!